say I'm a human being. God damn it! My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
With Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, warning before we get going. Ended up having the same issue where all of a sudden I can't do my controls while I was recording the Jay Dyer interview that became available over the weekend before I went to Red Pill. So if today's show is another disaster, I completely apologize. I'm doing my best, guys. I'm contacting tech support. I'm doing the uninstalls. I'm doing the reinstalls. I'm doing the traveling. I'm doing the editing. In fact, we also put out another interview with Dr. Lee Merritt, which I just want to say out of the gates, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the positions that she's taken, but as everybody knows, I talk to everybody, and I have a conversation with them, so I can ask them questions that may challenge their viewpoint, or at least, in my mind, challenges their viewpoint, and perhaps they're going to give me an answer that could change my perspective. I know, a novel idea that one's perspective could actually be changed. Weird and wild stuff. And so, that Dr. Lee Merritt interview is from the Red Pill Expo this weekend, which is obviously the lead story for the first hour. And by the way, in the second hour, we are set to possibly have, I don't know why it would be possibly, hopefully he remembers, but we've booked Alex Stein, Primetime 99. And the interesting thing about Alex is he's going to be a little bit similar to my next story in a lot of ways. Andrew Callahan crashed the Red Pill Expo. And I don't know if you would call it crashed. A lot of people may or may not know who Andrew Callahan is. But he's a pretty famous YouTuber. When he first came in, he was in like a new kind of outfit and look. Very Sacha Baron Cohen-ish. So if you've never seen him before, he's kind of got the Tiny Tim hair, and he usually wears like this beige suit, at least in recent videos. And over the years, people have sent me shorts of Callahan and short little pieces. And quite frankly, the vast majority, if not everybody that Callahan uses, at least in what I've seen, it's kind of gotcha journalism, like schlocky TMZ kind of edits that are quick, and there's never really a long perspective. So the vast majority, if not everybody I've seen on one of his videos, ends up looking terrible. They absolutely end up looking horrible. They get punked. To his credit, he's got a HBO documentary documentary out called, what is this? This Place Rules. Okay? And that's probably where I really recognized him from, because I remember this movie coming out. I hadn't seen it yet, but it had to do with the run-up to January 6th and what happened at the Capitol. And again, to the guy's credit, he does not call it an insurrection. He calls it a riot. Okay, fair. And, he was up at, on stage, I think, in December at one of the Stop the Steal rallies with, like, rap guys. And as everybody knows, I covered December and obviously January 6th. But, as I've stated before, nobody I haven't seen anybody look good. And quite frankly, after I tell you this, maybe you're going to call me a moron for doing it, but I ended up talking to him, knowing who he was, because I approached him when he was interviewing G. Edward Griffin. Now, G. Edward Griffin, to me, is a person worth admiration, okay? I often talk about how we can't idolize people. We have to be our own heroes. But the fact of the matter is there are those who set pathways for others, especially in regards to the methodology and even the ideology of trying to get truthful information to people. I mean, in your heart of hearts. And to me, that is what G. Edward Griffin, right or wrong on any issue, has always done. He has always come straight from the heart, but backed it up with academic teachings and research, which is extremely impressive. And his approach has been one of just a barrage of material as well, whether it be documentary films in the 60s or books like The Creature from Jekyll Island, which really exposes how cartel-like the banking system is intended to be and the Federal Reserve is intended to be, and how it's really grown as a leviathan. And the book is that thick, okay? And I'll be quite honest, I've never read the whole thing. I've read excerpts here and there, and I've watched G. Edward Griffin and been at events with G. Edward Griffin where I've been lucky enough to speak, where he's done breakdowns of The Creature from Jekyll Island, a.k.a. the Federal Reserve. So initially, when I saw Callahan in the morning, I couldn't quite place him, and I didn't know his name. Okay, and actually he did that other famous interview with Alex Jones, where Alex Jones walks out on him after he asks about Sandy Hook. Okay, my issue is so much of this stuff is edited. And I guess you could make the argument to me, and people would, well, don't you edit your documentaries, Jason? Absolutely, 100%. However, my journalism isn't culture-based in the way to get others. And what do I mean by get others? So when I interview and I edit, the vast majority of what I am doing is I'm looking at evidence that I have and issues that I think are important. And now I'm trying to set a narrative where I can express why they are important or why they are dangerous or what power they have and how they came into being. And one of the ways I'm able to do that effectively, in my opinion, is by getting people that I've used as research tools who have done the groundwork, who have given lectures on this, interview them, and then try to craft that narrative around their teachings. Okay? I never go... And the other thing is, I'm not a comedian. Okay? And yeah, I think I'm hilarious. In fact, Andrew, if you end up watching this, you know I made you laugh. Like, that's the other thing. Like, you know, he's a comedian. And when you're doing news as a comedian, you know, you're not only borrowing from the Comedy Central kind of Daily Show vibe, but, you know, I'm a big fan of Hot Ones. I've talked about that on the show. I love the Chicken Wing Show. I didn't realize Callahan had done it last year, a little over a year ago. And he actually talks about, you know, Sacha Baron Cohen and then Louis Theroux. And Louis Theroux is another one where, I watch some of his work and I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. I get it. And other work where I feel like people are being kind of like demonized and smeared. And Callahan in This Place Rules, you know, kind of sets out to, well, first he criticizes the mainstream media for fanning the flames and going to both extremes, okay? Which I think is a fair criticism in most cases, although I think, you know, he goes after Tucker Carlson, and unfortunately, again, to me, Tucker, far from perfect, but was the most truth-telling person on mainstream media. Just like when you had Bush too in, and you had Keith Olbermann on. Keith Olbermann, who has had a complete TDS breakdown, by the way, in my opinion, was the most truthful man in news on MSNBC and did the most meaningful stories. And I think, you have to acknowledge that, but where is that ever represented really in Andrew's work? It's not really represented in Andrew's work. So he criticizes both sides of the mainstream media, and then he does the same exact thing and goes to the extremes. And again, is trying to get funny moments. Look, this guy was at, what was it, the Summer of Love during the riot. He got a lot of that on tape. He gets both sides saying extreme things. Okay, you have to acknowledge that. Like that's a real thing. And the only other problem that I really have overall is that he also in this film, he kind of crafts the narrative that somehow Alex Jones is to blame for riling people up for January 6th. And there it is, by the way, guys. So yep, I already lost my controls. In 11 minutes in, I'm so mad right now. I'm so mad right now because we have a huge show for you guys today, and I can't control it. Like I was about to show you my video of me confronting Andrew Callahan when he got at G. Edward Griffin on camera. Now, how would I do that? I can't use the software that I'm paying for, XSplit. I'm very, very upset right now because I don't know what to do other than I'm going to have to hang up on my audience again and repost again if I want to do the show. So I guess if you're watching on Rockfin and you're watching on Rumble and you're watching on YouTube right now, you're going to get the first 15 minutes that I'm going to you've got to go over to the Rumble channel on RVM or rvmrumble.com. Everybody's got to go there if you want to watch the next hour and 45 minutes of the show live. Sorry, I don't. I don't have a choice. Man, I just wow. Oh, I've spent money. I've spent countless hours. I had a bank. I was actually also in the first hour. You're still going to get this in the first hour if you go over to rvmrumble.com or go subscribe to the Rumble page there. Just such a pain in the ass. Joe Bannister, who I hadn't seen in over a decade, is one of the OGs of blowing the whistle on the IRS and its selective enforcement and the actual federal income tax law. And I'm going to be playing. It's a little under. It's actually a little over a 30-minute video interview, but we're going to cut it off before the end because there was a cut. I haven't made any edits. I'm going to put it up also as an independent video later on. But especially with more and more IRS agents out there, more and more selective enforcement, and more outward weaponization of the Department of Justice and DOD. All important stuff. So here's the deal, everybody watching me on my platforms, okay? RVMRumble.com, Red Voice Media's Rumble. What I'm gonna do here, Krista, is I'm going to X out. It's going to go to like my little XSplit logo. Don't hang up on me. Instead, you decide to play one commercial, and then hopefully we won't have to do this a million times, but we'll come back today, and I'll have my controls, and we'll start playing videos, but you'll only be able to see it there. I'm very sorry, everybody watching on my platforms. I promise you that I will indeed repost the whole thing. Remember, Alex Stein in the second hour. Really big broadcast today. Joe Bannister, you're about to see my confrontation with Andrew Callahan, who says he's going to do my show, by the way. And he says he gave me his number. Okay. See, I would get Krista could take the videos, but like even then, I think it's just a pain in the ass because then I can't go to my articles and my shows. I want to be able to control my show. So look, I'd also love to see if Callahan actually comes on the show and does something long form. So, guys, I'll see you over on Rumble, or I'll see you later today when I post the replay. Hit the commercial, Krista. I'll X out and I'll come on back.